Did you know that China almost spent $30 billion to build a brand new city modeled after New York City's Manhattan that's now practically a ghost town? Or have you ever wondered what happens to the massive Olympic parks only months after the games end? Every year, billions of dollars are wasted on master plan projects that run into serious issues or never line up to their builders' grand expectations. Ultimately, they're abandoned and left to rot. Stick around to hear the juicy stories of mismanagement, crisis, and corruption that has created some of the world's most pointless megaprojects. Starting off our list of stupidly expensive megaprojects that should have never been built is the Goldin Finance 117. Have you ever wanted to be on top of the world? Xiangyun's Goldin Finance 117 tower promised to bring this dream into reality. Located in the city of Tianjin, China, this immersive skyscraper was the height of 2,000 feet tall, beginning construction in 2008. Also known as China 117, the skyscraper was supposed to be the centerpiece and the main attraction of the Goldin Metropolitan Scheme, a mixed-use luxury development located in the outskirts of Tianjin that only catered to the elite and the super rich. The Goldin Finance 117 was meant to be a super thin tower shaped like a walking stick. The tower had 128 stories in total, but only 117 were meant to be in use for feng shui reasons, particularly to avoid bad luck and to attract money and prosperity. But no matter how many floors were actually used or not used, this tower has run into some serious bad luck. Due to financial problems in the midst of the Great Recession, the construction was halted in 2011 temporarily and in 2015 for good. As of August 2022, it remains unfinished and unoccupied. In the developer's dreams, the skyscraper was supposed to be the tallest flat roof building in the world. In reality, however, it remains to be the world's tallest abandoned building to ever exist in the entire globe. Today, the tower is being ventured only by urban explorers who want to see and experience man-made wonders that no ordinary person could. In 2015, for instance, the tower was explored by the Russian couple Ivan Birkus and Angela Nicolaou, garnering world media attention. Next up is the Xiangyun International Project. There's no denying that China is home of some of the most insane abandoned megaprojects in the world. The Xiangyun International Project is one of them for sure. Costing $2.5 billion, the 1,800-acre urban development is located in Chunnel, approximately 5 hours southwest of Beijing. The local government wanted this project to spur innovation in the local and national level, boost tourism and culture, and bolster the real estate sector. The whole project was divided into two main areas, consisting of the luxury residential areas and the European-style structures and modern skyscrapers, and the north, having entertainment venues and amenities like shopping malls and a massive water park. Construction of the project began in 2013 under the control and direction of the Hebei Real Estate Development Group. In 2014, however, the group was placed under investigation for corruption by local authorities, and subsequently, they started to accumulate billions in debt. By 2017, the group was closed for business, and the international project was canceled. Ultimately, the project has been seized by the government, with tens of thousands of owners were not allowed to move in, and the residences and amenities have been left unfinished and unusable. The city itself is still a tourist attraction, though. People seeking a thrilling adventure come to catch a glimpse of this eerie, yet fascinating ghost town. At number 3 is the world's famous Dubai Palm Islands. The Dubai Palm Islands, one of the most ambitious projects in history of the United Arab Emirates. Today, it's the largest archipelago in the world. When it first broke ground 20 years ago, it was considered the star project of the UAE's urban development plan. Many people had high hopes for the project as a whopping $12 billion in funding was poured into it. And despite all the anticipation and hype, problems started to pile up for this mega project, such as that construction eventually had to be halted. The project first saw its hurdles during the 2008 financial crisis, which had left oil prices down. Its initial investors pulled out and the developer began to incur insurmountable amounts of debt. Then, it all went downhill when several lawsuits were filed and people began to question the environmental impact. To make matters worse, the island began sinking back into the sea at a rate of 5 millimeters per year. It's not to say that the island has not seen its heyday, because when the initial stages of the project were completed, a lot of residents moved in. It still has thousands of beachfront mansions and apartments, but in 2018, real estate sales dropped by 46%, and subsequently, the housing prices there also lowered by 15%. Many startups are looking to revive the project as the Philippines Revolution pre-crafted, which offered $3.2 billion to create luxury hotels and apartments. For some people, it can still seem as a good investment, and if they're willing to bet on it, who knows? It may still just be a hidden jackpot. But the many problems that it faces make its future remain in question. In our number 2 spot is Rio's Olympic Park. It's always been considered a privilege to host any one of the Olympic Games, as it's supposed to be a way to boost the economy and impress the world. Rio de Janeiro hosted the Summer Olympics in 2016, and they did not disappoint, but it had cost them over $13 billion to build their Olympic Park. A lot of money was spent on this grand tradition, including the construction of venues and a new subway line, renovations that were made to the port, and the building of the Olympic Village itself. Rio actually spent 3 times the expected budget. And for what? Following the Olympics, Brazil experienced a political and economic crisis due to corruption at all levels. In the aftermaths of the scandals, many criticized how the Olympics money was spent, thinking it'd be better to improve the nation's infrastructure. And what about the Olympic Park itself? Only months later, these stupidly expensive structures were almost completely abandoned. The golf course was not maintained. The BMX tracks, for instance, had fallen into disrepair, and not even the soccer fields are in use. Attempts to repurpose the land has not gone well either. Developers wanted to turn the athletes' village into a multi-billion-dollar collection of luxury condominium complexes, which would then be auctioned off to private owners and investors. Unfortunately, the health hazards on the surrounding land made property on the luxury site difficult to sell. In fact, it's been rumored that when the condos were put up for auction, only one of them was sold. In 2020, a Brazilian judge ordered that Rio's Olympic Park be completely closed to the public over safety concerns. And these days, the once dazzling park is on its way to ghostly town territory. In 1984, the President of France and British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher agreed that a link across the English Channel would be mutually beneficial. But the leaders weren't ready to stake billions in a megaproject with no hope of success. So they invited companies to submit their plans for a link between England and France. It was required that the link last not less than 120 years. The connection could have been a bridge, but the designers thought a tunnel would be better. The planned tunnel was to be 160,000 feet long, 150 feet wide. Construction began in the tunnel in 1988 with an initial cost of $3.6 billion raised from over 50 bank loans. They used tunneling machines, which are at least 2 football fields and capable of boring 250 feet a day. By 1991, the tunnel was completed, but the construction cost totaled a shocking $21 billion, almost 6 times what the planned cost had been. 20 years later, the Chunnel is still struggling with low profits, not exactly what Europe or France would have wanted. The transport cost benefit confirms the poor viability of the project, as the costs incurred still outweigh the benefits generated. To travelers, the Chunnel is a monumental infrastructure. To the investors, the project is a complete disaster. And the most expensive megaproject that should have never been built is China's Yujiapo. Of course, we end this video with Yujiapo, which is also known as the Manhattan of China. China has become famous for its copycat development projects, mimicking other world-class cities. Take, for example, Tianducheng, which is its replica of Paris, equipped with its own version of the Garden of Versailles and the Eiffel Tower, about 1/3 the size of the real thing. Yujiapo attempted to do the same thing with Manhattan. In 2009, construction of this $30 billion project began. Real estate developers were in the process of building high-rise skyscrapers, parks, and open spaces, and even a high-speed train to the city of Beijing for easier travel. There were plans to construct a Chinese version of the Lincoln Center to host operas, ballets, and philharmonic orchestras, and there were talks about opening a musical institute in partnership with the world-renowned Juilliard School. Today, unfortunately, the Manhattan of China is not even a fraction of what it was envisioned as. In fact, construction was halted in 2014, and most of the buildings have not yet been completed and are yet utterly abandoned. Can you believe that just 5 of these mega projects spent and wasted over $50 billion on the most luxury development projects that will most likely never be used or see a return on their investment. To put it in context, studies estimate that it would cost about $33 billion per year, spent over a decade, to eradicate world hunger itself, and $19 billion to end homelessness in the United States alone. If you liked our list of stupidly expensive megaprojects around the world, make sure you check out our video on the most useless megaprojects in Saudi Arabia.